Good day, friends. Uh, Thank you for joining me again. Uh, Today we are looking at President Xi of China path to president for life. Uh, the Communist Party of China has just released a statement saying that the date for the 20th anniversary of the committee to meet will be on October, mid-October. This is where they meet to select the new leader of China. And we know that in 2018, President Xi terminated the term limits and the retirement age because they say that the if you are 68 years and above, you cannot continue in that position. You have to retire, and only people who are 67 years and below are taken to the position of Secretary General and Vice Chair and the top of government officials. So this year, it is predicted that between October and November, President Xi will be taking another term and will be the longest serving Chinese leader other than Mao Zedong, the founding president. And, President Xi is a very interesting person because if you look at his background, his father was a governor and his father was a very influential politician, but during the Cultural Revolution, the one that Mao Zedong, incited the young people to remove the establishment, the people he didn't want. His father was one of the casualties. And President Xi had to go back to the village and start farming. And he rose to the top slowly. He went to America to study, came back, entered into party politics through the Communist Party because that's the only party in China. And rose his way up until he's reached to the point he's the Secretary General, the President of China. So President Xi is a very, very calculative politician, a very smart politician. And when he entered the seat of power in 2012, President Xi found a China that was rising and was a bit docile. Because we remember that after President Mao died, Deng Xiaoping, who took over, is the one that brought the aspect of communism and capitalism working together, because you find that China is communist in terms of governance, but in terms of you know of businesses is capitalism. In terms, you find that the government own all the land, the government is unquestionable, but how they do and how they make money is more of a capitalist way, because you find that China saw what happened to the Soviet Union. It collapsed because it fully followed the communist way. And it also seen that America is a capitalist, but it doesn't like some values that the Americans way of life brings, about democracy and bureaucracy. Because you can see, like, I can give you an example. If you're deciding to make a road in America or a democratic country, it has to go through various process and bureaucracy, approval and everything. And that might take time and delay the development. And to some people, it might seem as especially if you're coming from a communist setting like China, those bureaucracy might be seen as hindrance to development. But on the bright aspect is that it's a way of democracy, because we want to get everyone involved. We don't want to bulldoze. But when you come to the communist side, if a government wants to build a road, it doesn't need to ask permission. It can evict you and relocate you and build the road in probably even if a road takes 1 week, it will build in 1 week. But in the democratic setting, a road might even take 6 months. But so if you look at these two systems, China only adopted the capitalistic side, and then you can see that during that time of Deng Xiaoping, that's when China started growing its manufacturing sector, and it started becoming a world player. But Deng Xiaoping had this talk of bide your time, but don't try to show people how powerful you are, or show people your cards or how you're working. Just pretend to be weak, to be docile. And we can remember when the first attempt to take over Taiwan by the Chinese government in the 90s, and immediately the American government sent its muscle, its aircraft carrier submarines as a show of force that they were willing not to let China take over Taiwan. And that really made China to think and see that it needs to bide its time. It's not ready to face the American government or to make such a move. And over the years, China has been biding its time, pretending it's weak. We can remember that there were even issues when people were saying that in the United Nations, China is categorized as a developing country, yet its GDP is in trillions of dollars. So, because you find that the population is big, but some of the people, you find that it had like 500 to 800 million people in poverty, even though the population was $1 trillion and rising, but it still was classified, and it's classified itself as a poor country. And this didn't go well with the American administration. And that's why when Trump entered, this was one of the things that he was pushing for. But the Chinese government it's even manipulating the currency. It's pretending to be a poor country so that it can get, because if you want to do business around the world as a country, you must sign the World Trade Organization treaties, So when it's classified as a developing country, it gets certain exemptions from taxes, levies, and that Trump was arguing it's bringing unfair competition, because if it's a developing country to bring products in your country, and then they won't be taxed, and it will compete unfairly with the local market. So China was biding its time. But when 2012, when President Xi entered, he started a new era of China, an era of we are not anymore biding our time. We have started becoming too powerful to hide anymore. Let's start showing the world how we are going to operate. And you notice that President Xi was the one who pushed the One Belt and Road project. This was the Silk Road that the Chinese Empire, was trading through from China all the way to Europe to Africa. And now they brought it back through President Xi, and they decided to invest over $1 trillion in countries, in railways, in ports, and this was the brainchild of President Xi, because he saw that China needed to solidify itself as the largest exporter of everything in the world, and I mean everything. So it made railways, to Pakistan, ports, nuclear power plants, some countries in Eastern Europe, in Africa. If you live in Africa, China's building like everything. So this was his brainchild, and this really made China now to start making a lot of money, and the income of the people rising, the GDP of the country rising. And this is one of the things that even got him people to trust him, and also remove his term limits, because now people saw him as a reincarnation of Mao Zedong. In fact, President Xi is revered as a second Mao Zedong. So through his brainchild of One Belt and Road project, it put China out there. China started investing its military. Right now, it's the second most invested military. I'd say even most powerful. It's chasing after America in terms of military prowess. The other day, they just unleashed their first homegrown aircraft carrier. They are building submarines. It's the era of President Xi that we saw. They're even making man-made islands, and installing them military bases. The era of President Xi, we saw that they went to a full diplomatic assault, visiting countries, signing treaties, loaning countries funds. If you look at the era of President Xi, most of their companies now are $1 trillion companies. Tencent, Huawei. We even saw Huawei. It reached even a point that Huawei is now willing to. It's a powerful company that is even willing to lay 5G network in Europe. That was unheard of a few years ago. Competing with companies like Verizon, AT&T of America, And you can see that President Xi has really pushed the global power of China into, into a very high note. And it's even the time of President Xi that we saw that China is even flexing muscle in the South China Sea, you know, trying to trying to reclaim its so-called area of influence. And this shows you that President Xi is now taking China to become a world superpower. Yeah, we all know that China has an aim. By 2045, they want to be the most technologically advanced country in the world in terms of artificial intelligence, robotics. They want to be the technology superpower. And we can see that, President Xi, reign has made even inside China, even the rules, how the game has been played has been very different. China is the most surveilled country in the world. You can see that President Xi is not only viewing of controlling, the world in terms of economy and influence, but also inside China, because the situation of the Uyghurs, you know, the cultural genocide of the Uyghurs, and depending on where you read, some say the Chinese scholars say it's a lie. The independent scholars say it's happening. Just depending where you read, you might make a conclusion for yourself. But President Xi seems to be a guy who's know who's who knows what he wants and who's trying to implement. Because uh, even when you look at during the COVID issue, China had this policy of zero COVID. Like, even if if one person gets a COVID in your area, the whole area is in lockdown, a zero COVID policy. And you must remember that President Xi has not come out from China for almost now it's going almost 3 years since the COVID entered. He only stays in China. He doesn't even meet world leaders. No world leaders goes there to travel and meet him. The only time that he went out of China was in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is considered a part of China now because of the Security Act that they implemented. So he hasn't left China. And the reasons have been because, when the COVID died, he only had 1 year before now, this occasion of him being cemented. People are expecting, once he is declared president, they're saying for life, but the Chinese state is saying for another term. But people are saying for life because, there's no term limits. You can influence because he's been influencing. Now he will do his first trip, and right now he doesn't want to make any move. And when you look at President Xi, a lot has been happening since the COVID. There's a lot of issues in China in terms of economy. The real estate market there is very, very bad. And things even couldn't get worse when the issue of Taiwan came, Pelosi visiting, American senators visiting. Biden now is trying to approve a military package to Taiwan. So all these issues by the Chinese government are being seen as a way of trying to destabilize, the ascension of Xi, or make him look a bit weak so that he can't receive, favors from his own people, because his own people will question, why should we let you extend, and yet American influence is all over Taiwan. But as things are looking, there's no one to challenge him. It looks like Xi will take it. You must remember that even when he entered the presidency, the first thing he did was purge his own enemies through corruption cases. People were being purged left, right, and center. Tried to solidify his power base. Jiang Zemin people. Jiang Zemin was a Chinese leader uh, between the late 90s, between the middle 1990s and early 2000, who had cemented his foothold in the Chinese government. Military people were his people. Even when the next president of China came after him, he couldn't have so much power to control the government, because Jiang Zemin was calling the shot from the outside. He had so much control into the Chinese government. Jiang Zemin is remembered for starting the purge of Falun Gong. The Uh, it's like a, the religious uh, the religious movement that was going on in China, which was promoting health minded. So it had 100 million people, and the Jiang Zemin government saw this as a threat because in communists they believe that you only have to believe in one thing. They don't want. That's why they're even fighting the Uyghurs, because the Uyghurs are bringing a different kind of you know a different kind of faith or belief that might bring that might bring certain people to follow it, and the communism encourages just a singular mindset. So Jiang Zemin had a lot of influence, and when Xi entered, he faced the same issue because Jiang Zemin people are there in the security bodies, Politburo, and so he started purging all these enemies and trying to solidify. Even the move to take over Hong Kong is seen as a way of him trying to cement his power base. My expectation is when Xi is given another term, he will now take everything now to full gear. He will try to implement his vision of making China the most powerful nation in the world. And he understands there's a lot of challenge between, especially because of the Western side, the Americans will push back. And that's why we've been seeing this causing up of China and Russia. Yeah, yeah, because now Russia has been put in a situation where it has no friends, it has no option, it has to cozy up uh, to China, even though that Russia sees itself as a player. It doesn't want to become an underdog of China. I think I will do another video about the relationship between China and Russia. That will be for another day. But China now, Xi sees this is the new era of China, and the new era to take China, because to him he feels like the Western and the democracies are failing, and they have no solution for world issue. And we can see even when Pelosi visited the Taiwan, uh, China was quick to condemn it, quick to pull out of deals like climate change and engagement between China and America. So this shows that this is how the relations is going to be between China and America, because of now some people are saying that China has been looking for an excuse to be to be to confront America, and the Taiwan excuse was a very good excuse. And some are saying no, the Taiwan issue has always been a red line for the Chinese. You can't come and start sending arms, visiting Taiwan. It seems like the US is trying to, you know, is on a path to recognize Taiwan as an independent country, which China doesn't want, and it doesn't. It's a red line for it. And where China is it now, and Xi in control. They feel they have nothing to lose because all their projects have been fought. They tried implementing the 5G in America, and then in Europe it was cancelled. Their projects in Europe, the Belt and Road, have made dead end. Their Confucius Institute in America have been closed. So they feel relationships are in a dead end. And since the invasion of Ukraine, if you look very well at how China is is trying to progress, it's trying to progress itself now as a country that will solely depend on itself, and it's ready to face on America. We must remember that when immediately Ukraine was invaded by Russia, Russia was sanctioned, and its central bank assets were frozen. So China has learned this, and a declaration was passed through this year by the Communist Party that all government officials should sell all their properties abroad, and bring the and sell all properties abroad, and if you don't buy properties, to buy property back at home. And there was also that declaration that China aims to replace all government offices computer with homemade computers. So the Dells, the HPs, the Apples, which are used in government offices, won't be used. Now they'll be using local computers. And Chinese market is one of the largest markets for computers, because they were saying Government offices account probably 100 to 200 million computers. So you can see that China is moving towards a dependency in terms of its future, where she is taking it. And you can see that slowly by slowly they are making these changes so that it's for me, I feel it's a prelude to war or a prelude to conflict, in terms of how they've seen that Russia has been sanctioned, been denied access. So they're trying to, in case there is such an issue, a blowback, they can manage the situation. China has signed a deal with Iran to supply unlimited oil for uh, a 20-year deal. China will invest 400 billion in internet infrastructure, telecommunications in Iran. They'll get an unlimited deal. China and Russia, they're constructing a pipeline from Russia to China, which will flow oil, because China knows that it doesn't have oil. And if a conflict was to happen, the South China Sea, they'll likely Americans will create a blockade, because you must remember America is not alone. There's Japan there, there's South Korea, there's Philippines, there's all these other countries that China, that the Americans have treaties with. And you can, even when you look at the bases in the South China Sea, most of them have been made in the American bases in such a way that they surround China. You see, Australia is down there also. So China knows that a conflict might ensue, and it's trying to make itself heavily reliable by depending on partners that it can trust. So I expect Xi Jinping to take a leadership, and I feel that heads will roll in the Communist Party. Some people will face the music, and I feel also at the point that after he takes over, I feel now China will be looking towards uh, establishing itself as a great power, and it will be competing itself solely with America of the Western value. It will be trying to compete, for the same interest. You must remember that the State Department and the Ministry of Defense, of America, they have said that China is the single biggest strategic threat to its dominance, to American dominance, and American interest. And I feel the Chinese, even though they haven't said, I feel they feel the same way, that America is his biggest strategic threat, and to its dominance. So I'm eager to see what is going to play. And usually when a new leadership, although PG is not new, it's just an extension of term. When his term extends, I'm eager to see the country that he's going to visit, because also that tells you a lot of how he's going to engage and his plans. So I'll keep you guys updated, and we'll look into this. You can subscribe, and share, and so that can keep growing this forum, and we'll engage in each other and talk and see how we can, how things play out in this geopolitics and the political arena. Thank you, guys. Cheers. Safe.